Welcome everyone to my Twitch and lichess stream here on Thursday, October 27th. I had to restart the stream. We were dropping frames in the first attempt. I still have to figure out some bugs with the broadcasting software, but I do have settings that will work. So welcome everyone. My name is International Master William Paschall. We're streaming from Budapest, Hungary. We're going to be playing blitz and classical with players here on lichess. We've got a challenge from Hunt the King, 1816, casual 8-3 standard. I think I'm going to start reading out these challenges just so I don't accept anyone who's 2600 rated or without established ratings. Glideson, good to see you, man. Thanks for joining us. Hunt the King, we're going to get started with you. And I just welcome everybody. We're going to be commentating the games while we play. And that's why, oh no, we lost Hunt the King's challenge. I don't know what happened, but that's why I insist that the games are unrated. It's too hard to play in the rated games while I'm commentating. Also an advantage to my opponent. So we're accepting challenges. Hunt the King left there momentarily, so I hope hopefully the stream is working. I was trying to make some changes to the settings on OBS, but it didn't work, so I had to revert to my old settings. I have some bugs I have to work out with the open broadcasting software, but I have this setting which is functional. So Glides in Literatura is challenging me 7-3. Hunt the King, you're going to be back in a minute. Okay. Welcome everyone. Good to see you back, Glides. I know you don't get a lot of time to play at the time when I'm streaming. So thanks for joining us. Let's play something a little different, a modern defense. You know, one thing I've been thinking about, I've got to really sort of bear down because I have a tournament coming up in 3 weeks. I'm playing in Harkon here in southwest Hungary near the city of Pécs. There's a very good open every year in November. I'm going to be playing. Yesterday I think I had a game where I played c6 and d5 in a modern defense. Now I'm playing bishop g7. This is not really a regular part of my opening repertoire, although I do play the modern defense sometimes. Usually I play with like c5 on move 3. D Graybill on us. It is working. It's working. The frame rate's kind of low, so I would like it to be higher, but I have to fix some issues with my video card on the laptop that I'm using for streaming. So right now I have to keep it on the low frames per second setting to make sure it works. Okay, c3. This is a very solid move, basically transposing to a kind of almost like a Tory attack against the King's Indian, if you will. So we'll just go into a kind of normal King's Indian type position. It's actually not a King's Indian because white didn't play c4. But the positions are analogous to the King's Indian. You can play d4, bishop g5, d4, knight f3, bishop g5 against the King's Indian to reach analogous positions. So it's the same thing more or less. And normally when I play the King's Indian, I like to play, excuse me here, I like to play a setup based on putting the queen on e8. Queen e8. We're going to try to do that here. It's the best way to play for e5. You can also play knight to c6 with black. With the idea of e5. But I don't really like trading pieces. A lot of times, I think the main line, if you play knight to c6, is something like castles e5, d takes e5, knight takes e5, knight takes e5, d takes e5. And a lot of simplification takes place. So I'd really prefer to avoid trading pieces against a low-rated player. Trying to be practical. I want to win. Draw is not good enough. I'm playing somebody 600 or 500 points lower. It's pretty much a must-win situation from a competitive standpoint. Now we have knight takes d5, followed by pawn takes d5, e4. Interesting tactical sequence. The problem with it is that it would really simplify. It would end up just being a simplifying maneuver, and it's kind of a fancy way of trading pieces. So I don't think in reality that's my best plan. Technically, it looks like I should be playing for the pawn break f5. Knight h7, not a great square for the knight, in my experience. So, hunt the king, ghost mind. Lou Barlow's here from Sebadoh. Good to see you, man. I was just thinking about Sebadoh. I should listen. I haven't listened to Sebadoh in a while. There was a time I was running really good in online poker, and I would alternate between like listening to different stuff. And I remember there was like a week or two when I was listening to Sebadoh constantly. I was running really good in online poker a couple of years ago, so I have positive reinforcement from listening to Sebadoh. Like it a lot. Bake sale. Bishop g3. Now, this is the big question, This is a good move by Gleitzen, actually. Probably best. Where's my King's Indian knight going? Well, actually, this queen on e8 serves a really great purpose. It defends the knight on h5. So now I can play f5. And that's the key to the position this guy is defended. If I played knight f4, I think that white could just play bishop f1 there. And sort of change back to a different kind of... It wouldn't be a good position for white per se, but it wouldn't be so bad. Knight f4, bishop f1. I don't think you should play bishop takes f4. And now f4 closes it up too much. I can play knight f4 or maybe knight takes g3. Knight takes g3 leaves him with a very, very weak dark square complex. But it does seem a pity to take that really, really strange bishop there. The problem with f4, it just locks the position to the point where I don't know how I'm going to break through, It's almost like ridiculous. So maybe knight f4. Although bishop takes f4, e takes f4, castles is probably not so bad for white. In fact, I'm going to take this. It's a really, really tough decision. It's a blitz game. I don't know objectively what the best move is. I can only guess. So now, this bishop on g7, it could potentially get out to like h6 later on. Sometimes you get it to like f6, bishop d8, bishop b6. It has ways to get back in the game. Yeah, I said I like pavement also. Pavement. Pavement's awesome, one of my favorite bands of all time. I saw them live. I've never seen Sebadoh live. Anyway, back to chess. We have we're trying to keep the kind of tension a little bit. I need to make sure this bishop doesn't end up a really bad piece. So he took away the c5 square. Gleitzen literature, a very concrete move. What about my knight now? You're killing my knight. You're slightly weakening your structure, but killing my knight there. Knight f6 is what I want to play, I guess. Once again, watch out for things like knight h4, but my queen is in a very important position here on e8, so... But I like the move b4. He's thinking prophylactically. I don't really think it's going to be that easy for me to exploit the weaknesses he creates with that move. But getting my dark square bishop in the game would be nice somehow. I've got knight h5. This is probably a fairly important idea here, because g3 is weak. Interesting first game, guys. I'm going to be playing a bunch of players here from the viewers, amongst the viewers, and yesterday we had a we had a player who I was suspicious of get busted for for cheating. I wanted to mention that. Thanks to our moderator. It wasn't me. It was our moderator who suspected him for sure. And the administrators banned this guy's account, Lenchin. He had beaten me twice in simuls. And then again here in the blitz game yesterday in 10 moves, I resigned. He played perfectly. An obscure variation of the Polish opening. And, you know, I still didn't want to report him because I wasn't 100% sure. But then when the administrators looked at his games, he like literally wins almost every single game he plays. Yeah, they decided to. So I became a little paranoid yesterday. I was like thinking everybody was conspiring against me. Here, pawn takes e4. Knight takes e4. Knight takes d5. We win a pawn. But there's knight takes d5, bishop c4, bishop e6, queen b3. Could get kind of very, very hairy. I have to be very, very careful there. But nevertheless, it is possible for white to take with the bishop on e4 as well, which could in fact be quite a bit more solid. Tricky situation. There's also knight h4, increasing the pressure on f5. So I don't know, if knight h5, he has knight f1. It's not that easy. Pawn takes, knight takes d5. Nice game, man. Bishop d7, knight h4, perhaps. Bishop d7, knight h4. Actually, bishop d7, pawn takes pawn e4. I was calculating for me. I guess this isn't really a great move. Bishop d7, I'm just kind of panicking here. He can't take on f5, but it's a constructive move. But I don't know. I wasn't sure about pawn takes pawn, bishop takes pawn. It's not that great for me. So white played this really well. Are you studying at school, Lightson, or are you studying chess? Because you seem to have gotten better. You seem like you played a really nice kind of defensive game. You know, you're not letting me do anything here. How many hours is the Carlsen Naka match today? Camel Clutcher. Do you ever listen to the Silver Jews? David Berman is good friends with Malkmus, and I think he even came up with the name Slanted and Enchanted. Why is that name David Berman so familiar to me? There was a chess player with that name. That's interesting. There was a chess player with that name. He was quite strong, like 2200. Then he quit chess. He was the same generation as me. Around the same generation as me. A4. Pawn takes e4. Knight h5. But you're not saying that because that guy's a chess player, right? It's just a coincidence? Or is it really the same guy? Alright, I'm just going to choose a move at random here. Gleitzen Literatura. Your decision is not an easy one. To take with the bishop or the knight. But Gleitzen Literatura playing well. He took with the bishop. This is the safer way to play. It's not so easy for me to use this bishop pair now. But hopefully we're not worse. I think we can play carefully to get our bishop in the game. Also, bishop f5 is not completely off the radar here. We've got to get our guy in the game. Nice game though by White. Petrosian style. White is at least equal with this blockade he's got going on. Perfect positional play. I wanted to find something more to keep the tension, but I got a little bit rushed with the time running. I think my bishops are just good enough to kind of hold the line, but I'm not better. Very hard to break through. No, but I was from New Jersey, Bronx defense. You've got to understand that David Berman was a guy who was like from New York State or something. It's funny. Coincidence, I guess. I grew up in New Jersey and played chess in New Jersey and until 1990. So, yeah, I mean, I was very connected to the New Jersey kind of chess scene. Massachusetts didn't start until 1990. I didn't move to New England until 90. So, my chess reference, as far as chess goes, my reference point is not Massachusetts necessarily. Yeah, the David Berman guy, he was friends with like Whiteskin and David Arnett and some other New York kids. But it's a common name. It's an absolutely common name. I'm sure it's obviously a different person. Wow, Queen A7. I was honestly worried about Queen B5. Before you put the queen there, I was much more worried about Queen B5. So, I don't know. I think that Gleitzman had me in trouble at one point there. Now, bishop takes. What is going on here? Bishop takes g5. No, rook takes rook first. Bishop takes g5. If queen takes check, king f8. Pawn takes pawn. Queen f7 check. Take. I think I can do this. Oh no, I have queen g7 check, which probably saves a tempo. Queen g7, I mean. No, he has queen e8. Oh my god. Like if I play queen g7, queen e6 check, queen f7 check, he just moves his king. So I have to play king f8 here. That was my original plan. I have a protected passed pawn, so this kind of guarantees I can't lose this ending. King f5. Probably doesn't matter. I think I might be able to win by throwing away my e-pawn and queening the g-pawn here. Would actually, yeah, that's the plan. We just do this decoy. Never know. I've got to be careful. Bring the king back. can't have that yet. Maybe later. King position very important in queen endings. I hope I have maneuvering room here to force him in front of the pawn. I don't. Maybe I gain a tempo. Well, that's a mistake. You should play king b8 there. Oh no, I can still force you in front of the pawn. Never mind. No, king c8, I mean. King c8. After queen c5 check, king d8. He can't play king c8. Queen c8 check, king b8. Queen c5 check, king b8. Queen c5 check, king b8, queen d6 check. Actually, I had that. Queen c5 check, yeah. No, king b8. Queen d6 check, king c8, king b4. It doesn't matter. Okay, so it just wins. There's nothing there. Okay. Thanks to the game Gleitson. You really shouldn't have lost, but got a little bit tricky there. Shouldn't have allowed bishop takes g5, I guess, the way it happened. Hunt the King is back after his first challenge was not going through. We are back here, guys. I'm gonna play e4. So yeah, and that's my story. I started chess in school in New Jersey, and my first years playing chess outside of Philadelphia, the southern part of New Jersey, basically a suburb of Philadelphia, and I often played, you know, up in North Jersey too, go to tournaments and stuff. But Boston, I didn't find the Boston chess scene until I went to school. So it's a Roy Lopez. The only thing I really play, I was looking at the Scotch yesterday with one of my students, and it's funny that opening is just not something I know a lot about. I should learn a little bit the white side of the Scotch. I know very little theory. Last week it happened that somebody asked me about, you know, if we could request that I play the Scotch in a game, and I was like, oh my god, not the Scotch, because the Scotch I actually know almost nothing about compared to other openings. When I play e4, I'm somewhat limited, so I play really only the Lopez with white, or sometimes the King's Gambit, but I never played it in a serious game. Okay, so Hunt the King plays the Steinitz deferred. Now d4, b5, bishop b3, knight takes d4. I think we had a game like that. There is a gambit line I mentioned last time. If we castle b5, bishop b3, knight a5, d4, pawn takes d4. That's different from the immediate b5 idea. You can play it on move 3, you know, move 4. A6, bishop a4, b5, the so-called Norwegian variation after international master Johannesson, Svein Johannesson. Where is my moderator today? He took the day off. He likes Thirsty Thursdays usually. Alright, we're going to just play a positional game here. The quiet D is c3. Fortuit Folier said he hasn't played Railbird. I still don't understand your comment on why it was safer to recapture with the bishop instead of the knight. Because if he captures with the knight, Railbird, he loses a pawn. It was a very long line, like bishop takes, doesn't lose a pawn. Knight takes e4, I play knight takes d5, and then there's a lot of tactics like bishop c4, bishop e6, queen b3, queen f7, and I can try to hold on to the pawn. So it was pretty complicated, and I'm not sure if I would have gone for it or not. That is the last game. Very solid to take back with a piece there. So he's not really threatening anything here. Knight takes, bishop d5. I guess queen e2 would transpose to... It would transpose to a whorl attack. The real name of that variation, the whorl, misnamed in a lot of places like Wormald, whoever that is. But knight f6 castles is fine. That's... I think I had a game against somebody who played bishop g4 against me there. The piece gets a little bit out of play. The black could try some crazy stuff like castles, bishop g4, h3, and then like g5 or something. Doesn't look sound. I do have knight g5 in this position, but I don't recall if that's good. But why not? Like, why would it not be good? Knight g5, d5, pawn takes d5, knight takes d5. We'd have something very similar to the... We'd have something very similar to the fried liver. But it's not quite the same because I don't have like knight c3. I don't know, you know, if you can do knight g5, d5, pawn takes d5, knight takes d5, knight takes f7. Or maybe queen f3 there, actually. Queen f3, queen takes g5, bishop takes d5 just wins. Yeah, queen f3 looks very strong. So I have this here, knight g5. He could play bishop g4, actually. That's a strange move. That'd be really bizarre. You could take on f7 and then play f3. Well, this will be interesting anyway. I don't know what's going on here. We're going to try it. I've never actually played this position, but it's interesting enough that I think we should try to investigate what's going on here. It's an unusual order of moves by black. What's move with d4 and move 7? What's wrong with move d4? Well, move 7, like now? Nothing. Nothing in the world's wrong with it. Maybe it's the best move. Black could play bishop g4, perhaps. I like d4, though. d4 is a good move. Absolutely okay. It could be something wrong with it. This is better, but I'm not sure. Wow, so Jeroen was here from the start, but he's... I did miss you, man. Yeah, he did d5. But you know what? I realize what the problem is with this. This may not be good for white. I guess you could have played h6 there, but I think you're supposed to play knight a5. I think this is like only move probably. I mean maybe h6, but then knight takes f7 doesn't look very good. No, I think you have to play knight a5 here. This only move. It's similar to the two knights. Yeah, this is nothing for me. I think I made a mistake by playing knight g5. Just that I didn't remember the move knight a5. It's pretty obvious because what else, you know? So after knight a5, I don't think I have even as good play maybe as in the normal fried liver. But here it looks really bad for black because of queen f3. You know, knight takes f7, king takes, queen f3 check, king e6. I don't know. Like d4, unclear, you know. But I think this is pretty clear. This looks pretty clear. I think that black is in a lot of trouble. Probably just losing. So I feel sort of dirty, like I played a cheapo on black or something. It's an obscure line. I mean, most people don't play this order of moves, but I had the feeling that's why I was going to play. What was I going to play at first? I was talking about like castles, right? And just playing. And d4, the suggestion of d4 was good. I played this cheapo knight g5 and hunt the king. You're not like necessarily lost here, hunt the king. Don't give up. I just think that white is better. You have to play one move. I'm not going to tell you what it is. There's only one move. But positionally, white is clearly better. I'm not winning. But I'm not just going to tell people the moves. No, he's not toast bronze defense. He has a simple move. He's just clearly worse strategically. I don't like his game, but he has to defend. Defend the weak points. I didn't mention it in my first round of analysis. I was so excited about like winning a piece or checkmating him that I forgot, you know, to mention that there's an obvious move for black in this position that just avoids losing anything. Easy to find. Everybody sees it except for you. That's what Alexander Ivanov said to me when I lost to Lembedol. I'm sure I told the story once, but I lost to Lembedol, who had me like hypnotized or something with some magic powers, and we were playing on the stage area of the US Masters, and I was actually well prepared, and I played this like very important line that Ivan Sokolov analyzed in a Nimzo. And anyway, so to make a long story short, I lost like in 15 moves with white against Lembedol, and on the stage, and it was embarrassing, you know. And I was really sad and disgusted with myself, and so I was looking for someone to like console me, and say, "Oh man, don't worry about it. It happens to everybody," you know, that kind of thing. But when I went to Alexander Ivanov, he was like, "Yes, Bill, I saw it. Everyone in the room saw it except for you." You know, it was like, wow, that's really cold. You know, that say it, say it like it is, Sasha. Yeah, everybody in the room saw it except for you. So you had to play bishop e6, defending f7 and d5. Everyone in the room saw it except for you, including like the spectators and like, you know. So bishop e6 is not that bad. Bishop e6, it's like a standard sort of thing. I mean, knight takes e6, f takes e6. I have a beautiful white squared bishop, and I'm positionally clearly better, but not necessarily winning. I'm not sure I can say I'm winning. Queen takes g5. It's over. You lose at least a piece here. So that didn't help. You should do a stream where you tell stories from chess tournaments. Yeah, this is bad. But never like say that to somebody who's like sad and looking for consolation, you know. Ivanov has a tendency to exaggerate a little bit. I don't think everyone in the room saw it. It wasn't that obvious. I just kind of let myself go into variation where he was just simply going to skewer my rook to my king or something with the bishop and win the exchange. It was pretty easy to see it. But the pieces were in a strange place. Like, pieces were in strange places. His bishop was on d8. Imagine it's like it's a Nimzo Indian. It was a Nimzo Indian defense, and the guys, and Lembedol's bishop is on d8 after like 12 or 13 moves. You know, you're not looking for like bishops to come to a5 in the Nimzo normally. All right. So Kyria Kospes, Camel Culture, Fortuit Folier. All you guys, I know all you guys. Mule Skinner is now a regular. So we played an e4 game. Let's play another one. I'm like not happy with myself. For the knight g5 was really optimistic, and black just plays knight a5, and you're in a pretty good. It's a pretty good version of the two knights defense, I would think. I think I looked that up once, and I realized that knight g5 wasn't good, but I didn't remember if it was the exact same position or not. That was miserable. No, hypnotists talk slower. But I'm talking about, Lembedol doesn't talk at all. He's dead now. But he just he didn't talk at all either. He just stared at me with this really weird hypnotic glare until I just blundered the exchange and resigned for no apparent reason. Kyrgios, oh, it was you I lost in this variation. Okay. This is a fun variation, but I actually lost to Kyrgios. The one big green one there is, well, he must have looked this up because he's playing a really, wow, f6 really early. Well, I don't think I could do any crazy stuff with f5. I don't think that's sound. Like f5, pawn takes pawn, e6, knight b6, black's fine. Alright, so nothing fancy here. I like h4. If you know a little bit about the theory of this variation, you would understand a little more about why I'm doing this. Black's whole concept is to kind of like undermine the pawn chain for white. And there's some really abstract and crazy variations in this particular line. Last time against Kyrgios, I ended up losing because I put my knight on e2 and I thought my queen could like jump over it to h5 in a variation. I started having hallucinations that the queen jumps over the pieces. I think I have to develop here. This is probably the exact position we had in the game I lost a few weeks ago. This knight stays at home here. It doesn't want to get in the way of the queen giving mate on h5. But last time, we ended up in a pretty obscure variation. I had a friend who used to play this for white. And oftentimes he played a3 fairly early. So, I mean, it is possible that I could play a3 instead of bishop d3. I never really understood the intricacies of why we have to play a3 or not. But I'm not afraid of... This is probably the exact position from the last game. I'm not afraid of bishop b4 check. With queen b6, he's stopping me from playing king f2, which sounds really insane, I know. And so last time, I think I played knight e2. But I have an improvement prepared for Kyrgios. It must have been a3. This is my improvement on our last game, which I looked up. But his defensive formation is actually not a common one. This exact move order, when I looked it up, there weren't very many games in this position. So last time I played the clueless knight e2, which isn't a bad move actually, but it blocks all my tactics on the king side because it gets in the way of the queen. So that's not really the idea. We're kind of waiting. We'd like to play like king f2, king g3. The king is actually very safe on g3. And that's the plan. And queen b6 kind of cuts across that plan to put the king on g3. Ironically, it's very safe on g3. There's nothing that can touch it there. Ever, usually. Not very often you walk the king up to g3, but that's the common plan in this variation. Fortuit Folier said, NM found it. GM Blitz Battle Final, yeah. It's tonight. They should have had it on Halloween. That would be. They could dress up Hikaru and Carlson in costumes. We could have a Halloween blitz battle. Why have it on the 27th? Okay, it's a Friday, no, Thursday night. Thursday night anyway. Why not like Friday night, you know? Thursday night? It's starting exactly at the same time as a World Series game, or no? Jeroen, is there a World Series game tonight? Now we have a problem? Or I can play like B4 maybe. B4? I like B4. No reason why not. Famous last words. B4, rook B1. Or maybe rook A2 and swing it across. I have the feeling Kyrgios knows something about this kind of position because he's always avoiding making a mistake. But I always go over my games, guys. Occasionally I'll let some slip through the cracks, but if you do beat me, or if there's an interesting game, I don't just throw these games in the closet. I find, you know, what I did wrong. I like to know what and to learn from them, because this is like training for me as well as you guys. We like to learn from our mistakes. Tomorrow's game 3. Okay, so they were smart. They scheduled it around the World Series. Probably not a bad idea. World Series is going to Chicago, so chess.com maybe choosing a Thursday. Maybe they always have it on Thursday. I don't know, but it's possible they accidentally chose the right day. Yeah, it's probably not a good idea to hold it during like one of the most popular televised events in the world. Not the Super Bowl, but close enough. Man, he is not biting. Kyrgios is not biting here. The problem is bishop e3 isn't good because of f takes e5, f takes e5, knight takes e5, knight takes e5, knight takes e5. And my bishop's hanging to the queen on e3. So it's awkward for me to protect this. This pawn on d4. Although we have a good position, I would think, ultimately. I could play bishop b1. I don't know what it does. It defends d4 a second time. What about just like knight h3, or so it blocks my rook? That's the problem with that. So there's a lot of moves I can play. h5, maybe rook a2. Let's try that. We talked about this earlier. No, it's tied 1-1. Yeah, it's an awesome World Series in a sense. Though I don't know, you know, I keep saying I don't know where the Cleveland Indians came from, but they beat everybody. Okay. Now b5. This is weak. This is weak. So we could try to double attack, but he has knight takes d4. But I think at this point Black's compromised his position too much. Now we can probably revert back to just playing a normal game, so to speak. Though still it's going to be hard for me to castle, isn't it? Maybe rook f2? It's like a5. No, I have bishop takes b5. Rook f2 is kind of a cool move. No more king f2. This is so arbitrary. Rook f2. I don't know why I want to go to rook f2. Yeah, now it's a positional game. But our kingside looks really ominous. Our kingside attack has to be powerful here. Oh, man. But now queen c2, no? We go for it. Kyrgios is keeping the tension. Still not that clear. Man. This is really, really intense. He gets the pawn on d4. Maybe his king isn't so bad. I thought I would have some strong attack here, but it's not. Knight c4 is a vital move. That actually protects the e3 square, so I don't have pinning ideas. Maybe I should have just played knight g2, but I was afraid knight ge2, but I was afraid he locks it up with like f5. But objectively, I could try to play g4. Wow, Kyrgios, I didn't expect that move. You could have taken this pawn on d4, and I think that would be fine. So I'm just going to protect everything. a5. Well, maybe it's time to get out of here. What a position. I'll give you the pawn back. Also have f5. That looks pretty dangerous, actually. But maybe I can't afford to give him that. I can't afford to just give him this passed pawn on the a file. I was thinking if I played f5, he just ignores it. Whoa. g4. My f file is kind of blocked. The f file is a little bit blocked at the moment. This didn't work out so well. But like bishop d2. Man. Killing me. He's like positionally killing me. Good God. Brilliant, brilliant game. I'm definitely getting rid of this guy. That is the worst bishop ever. You try to sacrifice a piece. I don't see anything really with that here. Knight c3. Man, he has knight c3. It's okay. Man, he had knight e3 last move. Instead of that, he had knight e3. Knight takes b4, bishop takes b4. No. Knight e3? I guess not. No time for that. So knight to c3. He didn't have time for this move. But black, he plays a fantastic game in this line, really. Rook a2 was my big idea. It doesn't do anything. I guess he's going to beat me again in the same line. We have to do something. This is really masterful play by black. Impressive. So he wins the exchange. My bishop can always be rescued. Another good move. So we're down a full exchange, no compensation. Black's king a little bit open, but very difficult to attack. Another good move by black, bishop e7. Plays like a machine. I don't mean like a machine, like he's using a computer, just he's playing like incredibly well. Just relentless. Because I'm going to lose this. Nothing to do. My only hope is to win on time. This looks like it wins more material for black. He has bishop takes, h4. And my bishop is terrible. Maybe we could try to get it as king here. Bishop f7. Nightmare game for me. My only hope is to sacrifice a rook and hope something happens here. You don't really see what I've got. Sort of vague threats. Perhaps I should have checked there. He found a very good defense. I think this is like his favorite variation or something. There's got to be some reason why this particular variation he plays so well, as opposed to other lines. Man. Wow, he sees everything. And fast, too. Impressive game. I pinned myself. Alright, I'm not going to give up. Not going to give up, man. We got a pass pawn. Very powerful pass pawn. Maybe it just wins. That's horrible. Horrible. Black definitely winning the whole game. At the end, though, it's lost. I just didn't want to give up. It was totally lost. Impressive how well you play that, man. It's got to be your favorite opening or something. I'm sure that's your favorite variation. That's 2 times you had me beat. But I like my opening this time. I thought that objectively I had a good game. Something around knight b6, around here. Actually, rook f2. This is where I started to. Maybe this move looks a little bit shady, and then rook f2, knight b6. It's very subtle. Queen a7, knight b6. This is amazing. Amazing defensive play. In a position where you have less space, but you're coordinating your pieces really well. I'm impressed. Camel Culture is 2150. It was a really impressive play by Black, though. I think that's like a special. We all have our favorite lines, you know. And I think Kyrgios beat me once and almost a second time now in that line, so that must be his pet variation. All right, now we're gonna play d4. But I just wanted to resign, but that's not my normal philosophy. I was pretty disenchanted with my chances there. But nobody ever won by resigning. So Camel Culture, we've played a couple times. I don't remember those games, really. Some kind of English must have been. Looks like one was a draw and a simul, and another one was something that looks like a Marazzi or maybe a accelerated dragon. So it doesn't look like we have any d4 games. Let's play knight f3. It's a little bit boring, though. I'm kind of bored with bishop b4 check, honestly. It's hard to get an advantage against the Bogo. Maybe I should start playing knight on b to d2, because bishop d2, it doesn't seem to offer white very much. Objectively, this move is more aggressive, if you think about it, in a way. I mean, it's a passive move in itself, but the concept of not, you know, trading the bishop for the bishop is a kind of aggressive idea in itself. It's the same thing as if you look at the Rossolimo Sicilian. White plays e4, black plays c5. White plays knight f3, black plays, let's say, d6. Okay, not the Rossolimo, but whatever. The bishop e5 check. After bishop e5 check in the Sicilian, black has 3 moves: knight c6, bishop d7, or knight d7. If you play knight c6, it transposes to a Rossolimo, allowing structural stuff like bishop takes c6. It's interesting. If you play bishop d7, it's very boring, and you know, you have like equal material, no imbalance. But if you play knight d7, as Kasparov does, it's the most aggressive move. You know, you're not giving black an equal exchange, and same thing with knight bd2. But after all that preamble, I'm not going to play it because I just don't know the theory very well. With knight bd2, so I would need to kind of study up on it. I played this variation with black a lot, and I also played it against some strong players in blitz a lot. Eric Lebrun, for example, I played a lot of blitz games with him. Camel Culture is playing the like older line that this is called, I don't know, maybe Pulugieski. I don't remember who played this. No. Smyslov, perhaps. Smyslov. d6. I've played this a few times for black myself. Plukro challenges me. The lichess pop-ups look exactly like Facebook pop-ups. Have you guys noticed that? Now bishop takes, and we could transpose to a kind of knight c6 variation, I guess, in some lines. Do I want to take back with the knight or with the queen here? FIDE Master Strength from Bosnia. Yeah, Kyrgios, I know it must be your favorite variation because you know it very deeply and you seem to really fight very hard, you know. And I do the same thing with my own. You know, when you play positions that you've had success with, you can play stronger. And I think that's what I was telling to one of my students, that it's important that you take time to gain experience in certain openings. You know, if you play it just once or twice and give up, well, you didn't really benefit. But once you learn it, once you put a lot of time to a variation, like that one in the French, you know, some players would be scared normally to play that line with black, but it seems like you're very confident, and that actually makes a big difference. Knight c6. So that's a pretty valid setup that you played. Interesting game, man. Knight c6, you should have won, of course. Knight c6 here. So e4 would transpose to some kind of normal line. Maybe we can try a delayed. I've seen Jay Bonin do stuff like rook e1, e5, knight f1. I don't think that's really that good here. E4 is main line. E4, e5, d5, knight b8. Everybody knows this. But his move order is a bit strange, actually. So he has the additional option of knight e7 because there's no queen on e7. And I have the option to play h3 and avoid the exchange of bishops with bishop g4, bishop for knight. We're basically playing a variation that's, you know, along the same lines as the normal Bogo, but he's not had to waste a move on queen e7. I'm not a big fan of this. This is really boring and monotonous. I wouldn't play. I don't like this line for either side, to be honest. It's really always. I'm having a flashback to a game I played with FIDE Master Charles Hurtan. I think I might have beat him in this line. I also, in a similar line, you know, with queen e7 in the normal lines, and sometimes the queen goes back to d8, so that could be a useful thing. I'm not going to tell you why, but I don't like this position. I'm going to stop playing bishop d2 against the Bogo. It's just too boring. There's no imbalance. It's more interesting to play knight on bd2 than to do this anymore. I'm just really fed up with it. So d6 though, it's a weird move order played by black here. He played d6 and then he traded on d2. I guess I'm supposed to take with the queen in this position. This was probably my mistake. I should take with the queen, and then if knight e4, queen e3 or anything is good for white. So this was a mistake to take back with a knight on d2. This is my mistake. I should take with the queen there. Now I end up in a lame position. I don't really have any forward plan. f4 is possible, but my position is a little rickety. And f4, I mean, I don't know. I was thinking rook c3 has a lot of lateral kind of mobility here. G6 isn't a bad move. He's thinking about maybe playing for f5. Knight e8, knight g7, I don't know. Knight h5. It's basically like a King's Indian where the dark square bishops were traded. Now f4 he has tactics. This is an interesting move, isn't it? Queen e8. A bit strange. Queen e8. I think Camel Culture thinks he's playing the King's Indian. Yeah, I don't think I would play queen e8 here. Okay, he wants to play f5. He's defending his knight. I could simply play bishop f3 and then knight g7. He could just play knight g7 too, and support f5 that way. But I think, honestly, queen e8 is a bit weird. I mean, he's got such a good diagonal with the queen where it was on d8, on the dark squares, that I'm kind of surprised by this. So f4, it just can't be permitted, I guess. It ends up a tough position. It's a blockade strategy typical of the King's Indian. This knight is very strong on c5. We swing into b3, try to get rid of him. And if I can't get rid of him, then maybe we'll try to get a knight on d4. But this is much more like a King's Indian. I think that Camel Clutcher is a King's Indian player. Judging by the way he played this game, I do this sometimes too. I play the Bogo Indian like I'm playing the King's Indian. But you see this piece configuration for Camel Culture. It's like he's trying to play the King's Indian in the Bogo. Queen e8 is kind of a dead giveaway. I've never really seen anybody play Queen e8 in the Bogo Indian before. Then normally they would have played a dark square plan of like c6, queen b6, something like that. So here I'm going to swing into b3. Try to get rid of this guy maybe. If not, we have the d4 square. I don't know which way to take. Probably pawn takes or queen takes. I want to keep the rook blockading or not. Pawn takes in b4. Tough decision. Queen g6. The King's Indian continues here. g4 is thematic move. Man, that's pretty sharp, but he's got pawn takes pawn, which looks difficult to meet. Maybe I play a little bit quicklier here. I really want to play for g4. Rook g1. Wow, he just retreated voluntarily. That's cool. Alright. This is the best I'm going to do is put my bishop on e2. Try to get in g4. And my knight is kind of sick. Could play knight g2, knight h4, block it up. Queen d4 is also good. So I think white stands pretty well here. I'm not sure about the knight on h4. Actually, maybe not the best plan. Play rook c3, knight e3. That's a little more natural. Okay, don't have a lot of time though. It's a little time consuming. But blockading with the knight, no, this is passive, you know, a little bit passive but solid for black. But in the meantime, we're coordinating everything. And ultimately, what's this about? What is this about? Cheapos, in effect here. The master of cheapos. Damn, dude. Alright, let's play queen d2. Interesting. Now I have g4. It's a little dodgy. Probably not good. I do have knight takes f5 though. That'll be hurting. Blunder, knight takes f5. Camel Culture was trying to do something here. So okay, well, it was a blunder. It was a good game up to a point. 4-2 at Folier. Alright, more King's Indian than Bogo. Hard to play those blockade positions for both sides. I had a game like that in June. My opponent collapsed in that too, although I also didn't think I was necessarily doing that well. It may just be harder for black to play those kind of positions. Alright, so d4, we don't see that much d4 here. Anyway, welcome everyone to my chess stream here. We're here Monday to Friday, 10 a.m. CEST, playing 4-2 at Folier. I'm going to play King's Indian myself. A little bit too stale, the Bogo Indian. Boring. It gets a little boring at times. 4-2 at Folier. I don't remember what we played. If we played before, we must have played a King's Indian. If you played d4 regularly, I can't recall. So I've got to be a little more lively with black. I had some problems in my last tournament where I lost a couple games, Bogo Nimzo. So I'm not going to stop playing the Bogo Indian and Nimzo, but I can't play one opening exclusively. It's just too easy for people to prepare for you when you do that. So you've got to make it a little difficult for them. Guys, yesterday I uploaded a, 2 days ago I uploaded a video where I reviewed games for my Sunday Simul. Oh, you're the A3 guy. Okay. We had an interesting game with this A3 before. Alright, so it was an A3. This was in the Simul? When did I play this with you? Or you're just another A3 person? Somebody played A3 against me recently. Not that. I don't remember. Alright, E5. Simul on Sundays at 6:30 p.m. CEST, and I did a review video going into in-depth review of like 4 games from the Sunday Simul. So D5 closing it up. This A3 here in this line looks particularly awkward for white because I have now knight c5 and A3. Does that really work? Does it make sense to play A3 here? Knight c5. Yeah, I mean A3 may not be that bad. You can play like A3, B3, and slowly prepare B4. But it's not a critical move by any stretch of the imagination. Okay, so knight to c5. And now he's threatening b4, so we're going to stop it with a5. This is a pretty typical position where you wouldn't normally see the pawn on a3. We would see castles, or maybe bishop g5 instead, but not so much a3. A3, it's a slow move, a bit of a waste of time. Still not threatening anything here. Now I could play a4. The problem with a4, well, there isn't really a problem with a4, I guess. a4, bishop e3, b6. Bishop takes c5, b takes c5. Knight takes a4, knight takes e4. And I've got bingo. That should be fine. I don't want to play knight fd7 because then my bishop has nowhere to go. So we've got to calculate this first. You don't want to do this because then there's nothing to do with this guy on c8. So I've calculated. I'm also watching out for like bishop takes c5, d takes c, and dropping this pawn on e5 in some lines. There may be other moves for black, like I could play queen e8 a la camel culture. Bishop d7. The variations I don't like bishop e3, bishop d7, bishop takes c5, d takes c, knight takes e5 on my bishop on d7. Slight update in progress. So anyway, it's neither here nor there because when I play a4, as I did here, if he plays bishop e3, I'm just going to protect with the pawn toward the center. And if bishop takes c5, b takes c5, knight takes a4, as I said, knight takes e4. Now he played h6. Excuse me, I'm being Freudian again. He played bishop g5 and h6. I don't necessarily need to play h6. He's not threatening anything. He's conceded this space on the queen side. So what does happen sometimes, though, they go knight to d2, and then it becomes difficult to break the pin. So I think I do have to play h6. I've got to make him make a decision about his bishop, which way it's going to go. I don't mind a slight weakening of my king side. FM Strength, yeah, there was a guy, he got his account banned yesterday. I didn't report him, but I know who did. Anyway, he was blatant, though. He was blatant. And he was even like, I don't know, kind of an idiot. I mean, he was telling me that he's got correspondence analysis in the Polish opening, you know. If he didn't say anything, it would be better. Like, nobody really does extensive analysis on the Polish opening except for Andras Shadorian. Nobody's that crazy, you know, and it's just totally random. The guy was using a computer against me in 2 simul games, and then again yesterday, and he played almost every game. He won almost every game of his other games against everybody else. So just he'll be back with a new account, don't worry, this week. Bishop to d2 now, back to d2. But the problem was, once I have one person like cheating against me, I start to become paranoid that everybody's cheating, you know. It's a very bad social event. But at least we temporarily got rid of one cheater off of lichess. Okay, so white decides to play bishop d2. He's letting my knight remain. I have the bind on the queen side. Now, I'd like to play on the king side here. So the problem is, if I move my knight, I take pressure off the center. You also have to look for tactics like knight takes e4. I almost have it here. Knight takes e4. Knight takes e4. Like bishop f5. But he has just bishop d3, it looks like. So sometimes you can do like knight takes e4, knight takes e4, knight takes e4, queen takes e4, bishop f5, and skewer the queen, or play e4, winning a rook on a1 or something like that. But it doesn't appear that I have anything in this position. You know, it's tempting to play like knight to b3, but I think that's a mistake. I have him tied down on the queen side, and so maybe my plan should be to play on the king side here. You could play a straightforward type of knight h5, knight f4. There's nothing wrong with like knight e8 and f5. If I did that, I think that Fortuit Folie would probably have to go like knight e1 and f5, f3, some sort of, or he could play like I did yesterday, last game against Camel Culture. E takes f5 and then like f4, try to do like a blockading plan. Knight h5 is a bit more active than knight e8 for black. And knight h7 is not a great square in general. So we try to avoid... There's some lines of the Petrosian King's Indian where you have to play knight h7 because there's no other good square, but these squares are usually better. Okay, g3. g3 is pretty standard, and he's got like knight e1. Should we play bishop h3 or not? It's a good question. It probably doesn't hurt to play bishop h3. I am a little concerned that he has like knight h4. That's what I've done in a lot of games with white in analogous positions. Then I'll have knight f4 though, actually. All right, let's play this. This may be a bad move. It may be a bad move. Bishop h3. I want to play for f5, but my kingside's too weak with things like h4 going on. Queen d7 is not bad. Kind of a natural sort of move. The problem is then knight h4. I'm not sure how I can make progress. We can maneuver. Yeah, this is a bit awkward. This knight h4 constantly being an issue. Maybe bishop back to d7. This seems kind of strange. But we had this move for free, bishop h3. So I'm going to reset, put the bishop where it defends solidly, stop stuff like knight b5. If knight h4, I have knight f4, which is very useless. Now I can play knight f4, knight h3 check with unclear play. I could play knight b3 and grab his dark squared bishop, but at this point I like the knight on c5. I'd like to play f5. That's the main plan. Trying to hide my intentions here. f5 looks like the right idea, just that again knight h4 sometimes for white is well, the only square his knight can go to. This move is very robotic. I said robotic again in a human way. Rook on a to d1. Robotic in a human way. Does that make sense? Not really. f5. Queen e8. Now we're gonna do our camel culture impression, I guess. There's a problem with queen e8 though. He has knight to b5. That's very annoying. But I could take it off. I don't really want to do that. So yeah, queen e8 is sort of debatable. f5, knight h4. Then knight f4. f5, knight h4, knight f4. Then what do I do? After f5, knight h4, knight f4, bishop f1. It's a problem. To call Gary. Sack a piece. Bishop f6 there. That's a sick move. Okay, let's try it. It's going to be fun. Fortuit Folie. He's playing my move instantly. It doesn't work, knight f4, does it? I have to be careful here. This is actually a miscalculation. Alright, well... I like how he's listening to the stream and played knight h4 immediately. Wow, where'd you get that idea? Yeah, this is a problem. I'll sack an exchange rather than lose a pawn there. I don't mind losing an exchange if I can mess up his king position. So maybe there's some compensation here. Sacking the exchange. looks kind of dangerous. It's up to you. The 4-2 at Folier's playing tough here. No more comments for him. I think he's stealing my signs or something. He knows what I'm gonna play. Knight h4 was just played too fast, man. Stop listening to the commentary. Rook f6. So the Polish opening played by who? I'm missing the point there. Knight h5 is a threat here or what? It looks like we have some compensation. Powerful dark squared bishop. And you know, that's just something. It's not bad. We're probably okay. We can win the pawn back if we want to. We can try for more. Queen g5 is a very aggressive move, making place for my other rook to join the fray here. Maybe I should have tried to win my pawn back. Bishop takes c3. I just hate to give up this piece. 4-2 at Foley, I never had you threatening to take me out on the clock before. I guess I spent a lot of time. A lot of time in debate here. Where did my time go? It was 8-3. How did I spend 8 minutes? Talking a lot of nonsense. I spent a lot of time. I wasted a lot of time debating on which move I was going to play one position. But bishop takes c3. Now, okay, let's just take it, man. I'm getting my pawn back. I don't care. I want my pawn back, and I want it now. I'm not so sure, objectively, who's better here. Pawn takes. Wow. Did not expect that. I don't know why it's necessary to take with a pawn. He defended the threat there. Well, my pawn is a little bit weak on e4. White has his own issues, I guess. Rook e5 looks fine. Man, dude, you got me down to 10 seconds. Problem is bishop takes e4, rook takes f4. You can't take the pawn. And here I'm going to chop. I'm happy to trade. I mean, not happy, but perfectly okay by me. It's okay for me to trade that. Bad bishop, relatively bad bishop. Queen and knight are a good combination. I'm very familiar with. So black is not worse, despite the weak pawn on e4. White has his own problems, the messed up structure on the queen side. Actually, he has some moves there. Well, knight d3. Man, you're sneaky with the semi-fast moves. Kind of freaking me out. What? 4-2-8 just he eventually hallucinated something. He just hallucinated. It's an interesting game. I mean, you were definitely better. Just hallucinated here at the end. Time pressure got to him in the end. We're up too many rooks now. Okay, tough game. I didn't like that at one point. Things got a little out of control. I missed knight h4. I missed something. I missed bishop takes f4. That was it. Okay. Initially. Bishop takes f4. So the whole variation I was analyzing wasn't really correct. Let's try an English opening. We had sort of some compensation for the sacrificed pawn. Wasn't objectively maybe not enough, but typical kind of King's Indian where you've got a good dark scored bishop. It made for an interesting struggle. The opening was good, but consequent play by me, I didn't find the best plan. Knight h4 is a standard maneuver. So guys, don't forget to check out my YouTube channel. As I said, there's an upload, the simul stream. I thought I did a good job of simul review. Intensive simul review for games from Sunday. We'll have another simul this Sunday, 6:30 p.m. Sunday, CEST. Mule Skinner plays f5. This is always a fun line. The this exact position is the shortest game of chess I ever played in a tournament and lost. Against FIDE Master Alex Cherniak, I played knight g5, d6, and then in this position, knight e5 is another move, but so in this position Cherniak played d6, and I sat there and I thought it was a makeup game in a club championship at the Boylston Chess Club, and we were playing in like the back room where I didn't normally play. It was like a weird environment. And I don't know why, we were like all alone in this like closet, and I just didn't feel like I was really playing in a tournament somehow or something. There was no other games. We were like, and I sat there for like 20 minutes and thought after d6 how I should develop my king's bishop. Basically, should I play g3 or should I try to play a structure based on e3? And after debating this for like 20 minutes, with my knight on g5, I like literally like played e3 and hung my knight on g5 to queen takes g5. I was 2250 FIDE. Just dropped my knight on g5 in 6 moves in a tournament game. And everybody thought I was like on drugs or something, but it wasn't. It was just a weird, like, you know, you start to think about the position in a different way, like about all kinds of weird, like long strategic concepts. And you just simply overlook that your knight is hanging on g5. That was the shortest game I ever lost. But d6 is a kind of weird move. I'm not sure about the move order. I think he played d6 first and like later knight c6 or something like that. So here, again, we could debate the merits of both types of pawn structures. I'm going to bring my knight back to h3 so I don't hang it on g5. But yeah, that's the shortest game I ever lost. It was really strange. It's so embarrassing. I think I just resigned. I mean, I don't think I played on. Maybe I played on a couple moves. I don't know why I would do that, though. In a state of shock. I had the feeling I played like 2 more moves and then resigned. I don't know what made me decide to play 2 more moves. I think I actually let him capture my knight on g5. Or like at least 1 more move. Like hoping he wouldn't see it or something. I had been over 2300 FIDE. I was probably like USCF 2350 when I dropped that knight on g5. Very bizarre thing to do. Not under the influence of any sort of foreign substances. I mean, it's one thing to drop a piece like in the middle game or something, but to just leave a knight on g5 hanging after 5 moves is pretty bizarre. One of my strangest blunders ever. The bishop b4 by Mule Skinner actually is a fairly rare variation here. I believe that Well, it's not so common. Actually, this line isn't so common with the knight on c6. Much more often you see like d6 and c6, those type of big clamp type of strategies that I was talking about yesterday that white does. A kind of black strategy doing the big clamp, the blig. Big clamp with black. So the knight on c6 is a little unusual. Now he does h6, so... Well, I wasn't really bluffing when I did this, but maybe it would have been better to wait with bishop g5. What else can I do? It's kind of like a French defense with colors reversed. I've always liked the structure for white. If you read Shuba's book, Dynamic Chess Strategy, he has a great game in there, at least one game in there where he's white in this kind of structure, and he just busted somebody up with g4. I don't remember. He was a strong player. I remember it was like someone really good, like Timan, or I don't remember, but he absolutely crushed someone with this idea of this French type of pawn break, g4, breaking up the pawns. Common idea in the French. Black plays g5. Losing my voice here, guys. But you know, I'm working as an auctioneer on the side, and you know, my voice gets it. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know why the voice is a little scratchy. Yeah, I love telling stories about my blunders. I have no shame. e3 castles. Well, this horsey needs to get back into the game. We don't like this knight on h3. Though it's up to you. I mean, you may prefer not to allow the doubled pawns in this type of position. I don't mind it so much. Maybe in a vacuum it's better to play something like queen c2 or rook c1. It's a blitz game. What the heck? I have very good control of d5. So, I mean, what's he gonna do? Double my pawns and play like knight a5, b6? He doesn't really have a good setup for that. Tempting to play knight d5 here. Stopping the doubled pawns, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. He's got queen f7 only move, or queen d8. I was thinking bishop e2, bishop h5 sometimes. White can castle either side. Does he have f4 type of breaks? It's going to be hard for him to play f4 with the e4 pawn maybe weak. I'm not sure about my moves though. I mean, maybe in the sense I don't even want to take back with the knight. You know, if he takes on c3, it's like retreating my knight. Almost seems like a mistake. Maybe it's better to take with the pawn here and screw the pawn structure, just not waste time. But ultimately, if I take back with the pawn, he could play like queen d8 and usurp my knight from d5 with like knight e7. I'm not really sure. Not really sure. The other possibility is f4 coming, you know, so I'm going to take back with the pawn, keeping the knight on a powerful square. Yeah, I was actually saying something sort of stupid here. Like he was going to play queen d8 and knight e7. That's not the reality of the situation. We have a lot of possibilities though. The b file is interesting. Maybe rook b1. I'm not planning on castling queenside now. With the doubled pawns, I prefer not to. f4, I just take it with the pawn, I would think. No need to lose by knight takes g5 or something like that. So as I said earlier, I mean, it's a little unusual, these setups of the knight on c6. I mean, normally black plays like knight a6, c6. Okay, now I get him to weaken his white squares a bit. I can just develop my pieces. Bishop e2, castles kingside. Maybe f3. This is nothing to write home about, I guess, for white, as they say. That's pretty obvious. Bishop to a6, I did see it, but for some reason I thought I had some sort of trick here. Apparently not. Now we have to be a little bit careful. I sort of set him up for this knight a5 thing. We can always play queen a4, but that's kind of awkward. Knight a5, c6, followed by ousting my knight. Knight b4. Knight takes b4. Rook takes b4 is really ugly and positionally horrible for white. I'd rather lose a pawn. Oh, man, come on. Knight f4. Back. No good. If I just castle knight a5, knight f4 back, bishop takes bishop takes c4 is good for him. I thought I could solve my problems tactically here. Maybe I can. Castles. But it's... Get another challenge. A Facebook challenge. Bishop h5 at some point. Yeah, it's going to get weird. If bishop h5, I just totally leave my c4 pawn unprotected. Okay, this is going to get really awkward. Maybe I play f3. f3, pawn takes pawn, rook takes pawn, just dropping a pawn. Bishop h5, queen d7, he has. Only move. Only move, but a good move. So if anybody has an idea how I avoid losing material here, let me know. Rook b4 is very awkward. Trying to find some kind of tactical defense. This is not what I had in mind. Mule Skinner playing a perfect classic Grand Prix type of thing. Rook b1 was really weak by me. I mean, I just forced him to do the right thing. It was funny because I was sitting there and I was thinking about queen a4, and it's a much, much better move. It stops b6, it stops knight a5. He can't play bishop d7, or maybe he can play bishop d7. Then queen a3. Yeah, this was, the rook b1 was a lazy move. It was a very big mistake. Just too superficial, too mechanical. Rook b1. Forcing him to make a good move. b6. Don't force your opponents to make good moves, guys. Now I have bishop h5. But what's the point? Bishop h5, try to sacrifice for some sort of compensation, but I don't see it. other options. Yeah, I guess we're just gonna lose a pawn here, and try to get some kind of compensation on the king side. But I'm not too sold on this. This isn't really great for me. Very, very bad positionally. Losing my Nimzovichian pawn here on c4. So Nimzovich would like black here. Sorry guys, let you down this time. We are struggling in a lot of games today. No easy games. I think that's the kind of concept with 21st century chess. With information available the way it is, there are no easy games anymore. We got 3 challenges. Blue Crow, FIDE Master Strength. They're not getting any easier. You guys are good. And HGGGG. Mule Skinner blundered. My God. Everybody falls for my cheapos, you know. It's my image. Like, I don't normally play for cheapos. But it seems like he just instantly took it. It was like, yes, I want a piece. You guys don't believe in my cheapos. Blue Crow. Bluffs. Bluffs might work. They don't work. Bluffs don't work against you guys. You'll take it every time. Okay, Blue Crow. I know you're a tough player. We've got FIDE Master Strength, who's FIDE Master Strength. But he had just Queen D7 and Black's, or Queen B7 or D7. And Black's just winning a pawn. So we've had a couple outright lost positions. I mean, I'm not going to say it's a lost position because a pawn down isn't necessarily a lost position, but it's pretty close, you know. Never ever give up, but we were totally lost against Kyrgios and down a rook basically without enough compensation. Yeah, the exchange variation, it's like sigh. This is the line that I know the best, but I need to start playing knight f3 because I don't know if we played an Alekhine Blue Crow, but this is the problem. This boring symmetrical endgame pretty much kills the exchange variation. The other one is great for white. The old aggressive c takes d is really good for white, but the problem is that a lot of Alekhine defense players, you know, they want to play for a win. So when I played like Shabalov, you know, he would never take with the e-pawn probably. I mean, it's sort of like playing the Petrov, except it's Alekhine's defense. It's very, very solid, but it's not really in the spirit of the opening, in a sense, and that's why I think that this recapture wasn't popular for years, because it's just kind of like boring and pretty insipid. But as far as solid goes, Black is extremely solid in this variation. This is almost impossible for White to get an advantage, it seems like. So I'm basically at the point where I'm probably going to give up playing this variation for White. It's just kind of hopeless. Bishop f6 pretty early there, I would think. It's important to put the knight on e2 to avoid this pin. Oh, thank you, Saronche. Yeah, HGG, you need to re-challenge me to not rated, okay? HGG, I think we played once before, but you probably played me when I was still playing rated games. So if you're listening, we just had too many people like trolling me and stuff, and it's just too hard for me to play with commentary rated games. So I'd appreciate if you if you want to re-challenge me to casual rather than rated. Blue Crow, did I fall for some kind of trap or something? Or are you just making this up? You never played the Election, yo. I said yo, that's like Madurul. Yeah, so G3, bishop takes F3. Even that probably wins for me. Am I not like winning a piece here? Does anybody understand? I mean, I could play knight G3, that's all fine and good. It's all fine and good till somebody loses a bishop, right? But G3, bishop takes F3 check. Oh, it would be sweet. I just castle and you have to like resign or something. Okay. Blue Crow. This little piggy went to market. This little piggy stayed home. Yeah, so we can castle or play rook F1. Maybe castle is just easier. Because it's check. Check is check. Oh no. Oh, I see. You're gonna not lose a piece, and I'm making fun of you. Oh shit. Oh my god, he has bishop e7. I didn't even see it. Wow. So I have to castle here, and it's a sacrifice. This was a pawn sacrifice, obviously. This was my intention, to sacrifice a pawn. And, just kidding. I just totally spaced on bishop e7, but it's okay. We're still playing chess, right? And we have some compensation. It's no joke. It is no joke. We have some real compensation here. We have a lot of development. Steinitz would like this. I think Steinitz would be really down with this position. I always make fun of you. I didn't know that. I'm sorry. No. Steinitz would be really into this, I think. We've got the King's Gambit, like F-file pressure, good development. Queen H5 is one move, preventing you from castling, threatening F7. Okay, we don't have a lot of time, so we gotta just kind of make the moves and think later, you know. This is what one of your countrymen wrote the book on that. Right, Jeroen? Willie Hendricks, is that his name? Is that the guy? Move first, think later, something like that. That's a great thing to teach people. Because we don't have enough of that already. Queen H5. Yeah, this was silly hallucination by me. Bishop F6 is a nice move. I didn't see that. Well, he still isn't going to be castling here. But it looks like he has legitimate defensive chances, so I'm just going to cop out and say it's unclear. Now, knight e4 isn't going to cut it. Or is it? Knight e4, whoa. And you can't take on d4. This move, rook ae1, is also good. Rook ae1 is also very strong. Developing my last figura, as we would say here. All the pieces are in the game, but knight e4 was also strong. Was it? Actually, knight e4, yeah. Take your pick. So I just kind of stumbled on this pawn sacrifice. Foucault said he never plays the Alekhines defense. I don't know. What does it mean, never? Like, never ever? This is the first time? Or you just play it for fun in Blitz? And you're embellishing a little bit. He knew to play E takes D, which a lot of people don't know. So that's a little suspicious. Now knight e4. Compensazione. Ooh, this could get ugly fast. All the white pieces are just like perfectly placed. Everybody's in the party, joining the party. Everyone's invited. But your guys are not invited. Like, these pieces are not invited. Okay, the queen will kind of let the queen. These three are playing. Queen d8, bishop f6, knight f6. And then g6. Oh, man, dude. Wow, this is brutal. Knight takes f6. That's pretty nasty. Knight takes f6. Ooh, this is ugly. Knight takes f6 minimum. Yeah, well, I don't really see better than knight takes f6. Oh, he just let me mate him. I thought you were going to play queen takes f6. Queen takes f6 is kind of stubborn. I mean, you're still alive after queen takes f6, no? Queen takes f6. It's pretty bad, though. I mean, black should be lost. Okay, FIDE master strength. Yeah, don't give me an attacking position. I actually might know what to do. Against FIDE master strength, I don't know what he plays. I don't remember if I played e4. I don't think I played e4. I think I probably played... Oh, no. Not the French defense. Oh, God. Alright, we'll just treat it as learning experience. I have a bad score against the French defense here on the stream. Oh, you're repeating. Are you prepared for the same line I played with the other guy? This is our thematic variation for the day. Well, I guess this is kind of the main line. Queen b6. And then a3. Is this what I'm supposed to do? a3 now? I don't think it's even really necessary. But we're going to get a position a little different from the other game because he's castled in this position. He can't take this pawn. What? Whoa. Okay, so I have two questions for you. Should I, can I just take back here? And is there anything wrong with it? And then, are you getting checkmated if I play bishop takes h7? Bishop takes h7 check, king takes, knight g5 check. Yeah, I mean, this is kind of stock sacrifice, is it not? This is what Kiriakouspes was trying to avoid very, very much by not castling kingside. I think he gets mated if he takes it, or pretty much close enough. So it's not a fun variation for black. Kiriakouspes did everything he could not to castle kingside. It worked finally. He was digging really deep for moves though. Queen a7, knight b6, knight c4, leaving his king in the center. It worked though. If you check that game out, FIDE Master Strength, you might try playing like him. I don't know what the modern theory says on this line. Goofy Gumdrop says, is this real? Have you ever tried the red T gambit with b3 against the French? Maybe I'm going to start that. No, Plucro. I played a weird setup with like 2 knights, and I have this kind of coffee house formation I play. I played Queen E2, you know, the Chigorin variation. I've played like Knight F3 and Knight C3 and Bishop D3, like a Kopek system against the French. But I mean, I've only done that in Blitz, you know, just for fun. I wouldn't play it in a tournament game. And mostly, and in the serious games, I've been white. I played Knight C3. So I started to think about learning the Tarrasch, though, because I think it's probably white's best, objectively. I like the Adams-Karpov duo. It's very hard for black to not get checkmated here. Checkmate. This is not my invention, obviously. But now we understand why. Now we understand why Kira Kospez is so careful not to castle kingside. HGG, thank you for changing your challenge to unrated. Knight F3. We played one game. I don't remember when it was. I don't know what color I was. Sometimes it's hard to tell which color you are. Let's try something different. I always play like C5 against Knight F3, but this is how I often got into the hedgehog. So Knight F3, Knight F6, followed by B6. And now Knight C3. Well, it could transpose to a Queen's Indian type of thing. If C5, though, C5, D4, pawn takes pawn. I don't really play that line for black. That's the problem with that. I never really learned it, although it's a decent line. C5, D4, CD, and Bishop B7. Now it's a Queen's Indian, which is okay for me. I think against Magnus, I might have played this. This might have been my game against Magnus, and like in a rapid tournament in Norway, I played like A3 and Magnus played G6. It might have been a G6 Petrosian system. I'm not sure. It's so long ago. I don't recall. Bishop G5 now, transposing to. This is the most solid move, though. Bishop E7. That's the advantage of this move order. I don't have to go into these very dynamic positions. This is just a kind of safe line for black. But winning chances here aren't that good for black, obviously. Kind of a solid formation. The Larry Bird opening. From Total Theory, I entered in real mate scheme after C takes D. Yeah, it's like you have to play King H8 probably, but it's not good. But FIDE Master Strength, check out the game that I played earlier in the stream with Kyria Kospaz. I kind of like the way he played that. The move order was slightly different. I didn't play A3. He didn't play Queen B6 right away, but I think his idea is pretty sound. Although you can look up theory and find other plans too for black. Okay, Bishop F4, interesting. Well, we are going to embrace this situation because I was just talking about how it's hard to win with black, but now the position becomes pretty dynamic. He's got doubled pawns. We didn't trade bishops on E7, so there's a lot of play in this position. And I sympathize with his decision to play Bishop F4. But objectively, it seems odd, you know. If you're going to play a variation like bishop g5, you probably should stay with it and just trade pieces there. Now I don't know. I don't really want to undouble his pawns. But he could have like queen b1 or queen c2 and put pressure on this pawn. Not sure what my best plan is here. d6 is the usual kind of strategy. Yeah, I think this is simple and best. d6, knight d7. No, g6 is too weakening. I could consider f5. Speaking of weakening, h6 is safer. I was kind of expecting, I don't know HGGG that well, so I was expecting many players would go totally psycho with castle queenside, which is interesting, but bishop e4 is more of like a positional move. But it may be a good move. Pretty deep, actually. Perhaps I should play, instead of queen c8, something more active. Well, this is a kind of weird position now. I'm not sure how strong HGGG is. I didn't play him like one game. 1961 is not bad. So you never know. I've had some really tough games from players of all rating levels lately. As I said earlier, it seems like there are no easy games. Although there are blunders. I'm getting a lot of one-move blunders. Fortunately, when I have a bad position, I'm getting lucky a lot. Guys, we got 20 minutes back in the stream left, and wow, h4, okay. I thought maybe g4. Maybe that's on its way soon too. I could play f5 here. I think it's sound. It's obviously a little bit risky, but you know, getting out the house and getting, you know, across the street is risky too. So sometimes we just can't avoid all risk. Knight d7, knight f6 looks okay for black. h5, that's fine. I don't see any concrete threat for white. As long as I stop him from playing g4, he doesn't really have an attack. And in the meantime, we have a pretty good, straightforward sort of positional plan. He's got the doubled pawns. He's not castled. We are. And we could ultimately play like rook e8 and push in the center. So I think black stands pretty well here. Welcome everybody to the stream. S. Stalwart of the Sublime. Goofy Gumdrops. Didn't mention you. You were here early. I think the first one on the stream, Goofy Gumdrops. So, king e2. I was saying rook e8. Well, we can also play knight f6, just hanging out. But we can wait on that for one move. Let's complete our development, so to speak. Look at that. He's after me. He wants to come and get me. There's a certain point to that move, you got to admit. Do I have any kind of sacrifices, like e5? Oh man, I don't know. Oh yeah, let's see. Knight f6 followed by knight takes h5. If knight h4, knight takes h5. Knight g6, knight takes f4 check. That looks pretty good. Doesn't have this move without dropping his h5 pawn. Well, anyway, we're stopping g4. But he stopped me from playing e5, which is a kind of This is sort of gain for white. He's prevented me from achieving e5. Still, I think that white has some problems because of these pawns. Guys, Sunday I have a simul every week, 6:30 p.m. CEST, Central European Summertime. I guess summertime is almost over. Soon we can just say Central European Time, or CET. FM Strength says, I know a lot of theory in almost all modern openings. Sometimes I just get stoned and forget proper continuation. Another and then coming break. That's probably because I'm tired. Tired body. I'm really sleepy. Yeah, FM Strength. I try not to play when I'm tired. I often, you know, you don't see me playing here in the evenings because I don't like to play when I'm tired. I like to play when I'm fresh. That's why I do the stream in the morning. I mean, I want to play my best, so take it very seriously. Even these offhand games, so to speak. Bishop g3, this is... Ooh, it looks kind of ugly for white. Is knight e4 the right idea, though? Well, I had another idea here. Knight e4. He's trying to play what? Bishop h4 or knight h4? Knight h4? Bishop h4, maybe. This is the idea. I have queen a6. Yeah, it's not good to play chess when you're tired. I want to play my best. That's why I don't play in tournaments and stuff in the evening. I'm usually really busy during the day, and I don't like to play if I can't play my best. That's it, man. This move is not winning or something for me, but it makes life a little difficult. I'm going to tie him down. Maybe play like knight e4 next. And I'd like to get in d5. Maybe just win the pawn, but he's got knight e5. It's not that easy for me to make progress here. Bishop h4, though. You have to play queen b3. I mean, it seems to me pretty much forced. You could play knight d2 as well. But bishop h4, I'm just winning this pawn. It's pretty much game over. You can't afford to lose a pawn there. I mean, that's just not necessary. Not necessary. I didn't have any concrete win, you know, if you don't give me that pawn. Now what? Yeah, this is pretty good. Not necessarily the only move for me, though. White's not threatening too much. So I could find a move that just improves my position. You know, something b5, maybe b5. Just simply looks like a good move. Although knight e4, bishop takes e7, rook takes e7. Knight h4, I was a little bit worried about. Objectively, that's not enough for white. I like simplifying when I'm up material. This position is no exception. I think I looked at g4, but I decided I could just take on c3. I'm just up 2 pawns without really that much compensation. At g4, Might have other moves too. Maybe even pawn takes pawn. Okay, so this now... We don't want to lose the exchange. So rook e8. Yeah, actually, I'm a little bit tired too today because something woke me up in the early morning, and it was kind of hard to fall back asleep after that. We're going f to e8. So guys, don't forget to check out my YouTube channel, Video Chess Training on YouTube, and subscribe and like over there. Strong move. Nice resource. It's getting a little scary for me. I've got to be careful here. Got to be very careful. Precise. If you guys want to contact me about lessons or training or any kind of chess questions or regarding the stream or suggestions, my chess email is videochesstrainer@gmail.com. And feel free to contact me about coaching or any kind of ideas you have for the stream. Rook f7. We have defense of f5. If he takes, we have the rook activating here. I guess we just win a second pawn now with check. And this is a good try. A g5. Best try. You got to be a little bit careful. Not a trivial situation. Maybe to some top GMs it would be trivial. It doesn't seem trivial to me. He has a few threats and counterplay here. Doesn't look like quite enough though. Rather than being greedy, this is simply greedy. You know, if you take that pawn, whatever happens to you, you deserve it, because there's just no need to grab a third pawn when you're up 2 pawns. Time to go back and consolidate. You know, I leave you to your fate with the lions. If you take that pawn at a2, you're asking for trouble. You know, I mean, you just don't do things like that. A lot of possible moves here. This is where this is about the point in the game where according to Stockfish, my game, usually I miss some kind of accurate moves, it says. You know, instead of winning by 4 pawns, I win by 3. It starts to criticize my play. It usually goes downhill, but I usually get the job done, which is the goal. All right. Well, we're just up. Yeah, we're up enough pawns that we don't have any fear here. Rook, not a good idea. Okay, knight here. Knight e7 or knight f6 looks okay. Obviously, we're looking good, 2 pawns up. But HEG not giving up. Who can blame him? Who can blame him for not giving up? How are we going to convert this position? This e5 check just gives him a square. Gives him a square. We could play e5 check, I guess, and play d5. I am 2 pawns up, so I guess trading isn't so bad. Wow. I have any kind of tactics. He even avoided all checks there with that move. Well, I guess I have to defend again. 3 pawns now. Momentarily. HGG, the fighter. But I don't get mated somehow. I feel like this is this is a little precarious. Guys, one more game after this. We have one more challenge, one more game. Plukro, if nobody else challenges me, Plukro, I'm happy to play one more. Finally found a way to do it. We have fork. I don't know about this knight ending. Yeah, that's not going to cut it. But he's not giving up. He did give up. Okay, I said he's not giving up. He did give up. Thank you for the game, HGG. It was a tough fight. I think you can still play on a few more moves there. You have some small chance for me to make a mistake. I wouldn't hold it against you. Okay, last game. Blue Crow is going to play a second game. It's a blitz game. Thanks for making it a fast challenge because we only have like 10 minutes left. So let's try something we haven't played today. Maybe G3, something different. Only desperation. But he fought the brave fight. Last game for today, guys. We'll be back tomorrow, 10 a.m. CEST. Normally I play knight f3, but let's have some fun. It's a reversed modern defense. Yeah, black hits the center. I don't claim white has reasonable chances of getting an advantage at this point. I don't think that objectively this is dangerous for black. But on a practical level, it's very playable. Play with colors reversed is perfectly reasonable. Now this move not the best. I mean, I think black should play d4. And like the second best move may be debatable. Okay. It's not bad, but we're going back into a mainline English, which has got to be at least okay for white. But Blue Crow, if you're confident and if you're comfortable, that's the most important thing. This is a reverse Sicilian, one of the most important variations of the English opening. If he plays knight c6, I don't know what other options there really are. So here, I've got no queen a4 type stuff, obviously. Korchnoi liked to play like g5 really early. He had some interesting games. Kasparov annotates some of Korchnoi's games, or at least one of Korchnoi's games against Gregory Serper in his My Great Predecessors series. I think that Korchnoi played maybe, I don't remember the move order. Is it bishop e7 or bishop e6 followed by g5? Kind of psychotic to try to play like you're white, you know? A risky plan. You're an e4 player, that's all you know. So h6. Okay, so h6, it's a kind of like quiet prophylactic move. You could also do stuff like g5, but it's not as scary for white as those other lines. D4. Pawn takes d4. Interesting possibility for white. d4, pawn takes d4, knight b5. Trying to free my position. And some sort of gambit, like d4, pawn takes knight b5, bishop c5, b4. But let's just play correctly here. d3. And it could transpose to some kind of normal normal type of dragon with colors reversed. He could also try to castle queenside here, play something sharp if he wants to. But it's dangerous, you know, to be like a tempo down and playing a sharp variation of the Sicilian. And I don't mind too much knight takes e3 sometimes, certain positions. I'm not sure here, though, that I want to allow it. Certain positions, it's okay. You could play rook c1, for example. I guess this is so routine, though, to take here. Put my bishop on e3. It's a bit awkward. Queen and d2. Yeah, let's try something creative. What else do we have but creativity? If nothing else. Knight takes d5 so insipid, you know, just trading pieces, and black's position is very solid. There's no complication. With queen d2, it gives him a like wide berth. He can do a lot of things. He can go wrong in a lot of ways. Try to different kind of plans for black. There's a lot of possibilities. If I play knight takes d5, I just kind of make life easy for black, you know. So objectively, maybe it's the best move, but on a practical level, I don't think so. Bishop e7 now, and so we can try to play more sort of creatively here. I'm not sure. Maybe rook ac1 is possible too. And then this capture, your guess is as good as mine. We can take with the queen or the pawn for white. Let's try the pawn. In the theme of complications. Now I feel stupid for playing this rook move, though. Actually, rook fc1 may have been inaccurate. I mean, the rook would have had a good use now along the f file. So this one should be over here. Kind of weird, but probably not the end of the world. It's not the only feature of the position, so I'll deal with it. Aronian liked to play a lot of reverse Sicilians with white, especially in his younger years. Sorochik, yeah, he says bishop e7 then g5. Okay, that sounds about right. We're going the standard reverse Sicilian plan here. Blue Crow going for it with g5. G5. I mean, g5 doesn't look that scary for me here. To me. Interesting ideas. Whoa. Piece sacrifice? Anybody? Rook takes c6. Pawn takes e4. Okay, that's interesting. Rook takes c6. Pawn takes e4, rook takes e6. Pawn takes f3, bishop takes f3. That's good for me. Rook takes c6, b takes c, knight takes e5. Pawn takes e4. Yeah, we're trying to do rook takes c6, b takes c, knight takes e5. And then I'm not sure what's going on. I'm down a rook there. Down a rook seems like a lot. So perhaps we don't need to be so fancy. Let's just keep it simple. But we had to make sure. Still, black looks a little overextended to me. I guess we don't have to be. No need to be fancy. There's definitely a lot of fancy play syndrome, they call it in poker. A lot of fancy play syndrome in chess. For sure. Probably more than in poker. People just get carried away, like trying to be romantic or something. Absolutely not necessary in most cases. In most cases, it's best to just play standard moves. Tactics aren't that easy to come by, you know, and brilliant combinations aren't that easy to come by. One thing I've learned. And now we have, I would think we have a pretty good game, but what's the plan now? Queen b3? We're in a little bit of time pressure, so this rook move, man, ended up being the wrong rook. I would pay good money to have my other rook on f1. Rook on a1 is just totally redundant. Or just useless. Useless might be a better word. Might as well just take it off the board. In the dragon, it's really hard to know, like, which way we should go with the rooks. But probably in a situation where he's not castling queenside, I made the wrong call there. But just knight takes c6 here. Again, not being fancy, you know. Not being fancy. Just making the routine move. Looks good. And then we're back. We're coming back. Did I have something better? Maybe. I didn't see it. I probably had something better. Now what? I'm going to move my rook back. I want my rook back on f1. He's covering all these squares. It's pretty nasty, actually. We are running out of time, too. My knight doesn't have a good square here. He's running rook b8. Queen a4 or something? What am I supposed to do? Man, we are losing on time. I don't know how well I calculated this, but hopefully good enough. The goal is to just remain a pawn up. Not fancy. Just very routine pawn up. No tactics, just keeping him busy. Well, I calculated a little bit here. I fixed his pawns. C'est la vie. Rook c7 was an interesting move there. Our knight is getting kind of entrenched in the position on d6. I said it. Almost trapped. Blue Crow is fast, dude. I'm lucky I have this square. Man, dude. I did not see that. Lucky I have an intermezzo. And the white squares fall apart. All right, man. Good game. It was kind of messy. He probably had some tricks there, but White was better, more or less better. I think you had good compensation at one point though. Thanks for the game, everybody. Games. We will be back tomorrow. You missed a total meltdown. Lots of expletives, keyboards flying around. Last game for today. So we'll be back tomorrow. Thanks again. Don't forget to check out my YouTube channel, Video Chess Training. I'd like to thank anybody who donated to the stream and to my YouTube channel via PayPal. If you can afford even $5 a year, if everybody donated like $5 a year, I could keep the thing going for the whole year. So much appreciated, and thumbs up to everybody who did support the stream via PayPal. We'll see you guys tomorrow, 10 a.m. Bye-bye.